The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc for the arts sector around the world. Many festivals and concerts have been cancelled, while majority of theatres and cinemas remain closed. However, slowly and cautiously, what was closed is now gradually opening up. In Ghana, the story is different. Cinemas remain closed, although various social gathering venues have been opened. My colleague Mapito Sebedi of the Joy Entertainment Desk visited Silverbird Cinema, the biggest in West Africa and the second biggest in Africa. Here is her report.
Every filmmaker's dream is to see their final product on the big screen. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, those dreams continue to be shut. While some parts of the world open their theater doors, in Ghana, those dreams continue to be dreams. I'm sitting in the middle of a 300-seater capacity cinema hall. And without an audience, it feels lonely and quiet. No lights, no camera, and certainly no action. Today, I tell you the cinema story, 15 months after the doors were shut. I'm currently at the front of house of Silverbird Cinemas, the biggest in West Africa and the second biggest on the entire African continent. And I'm going to speak to Nanayao, who is a business manager here at Silverbird Cinemas, Ghana. And we're going to talk about the impact of the closures of cinemas. Nanayao.
Hi, Princess.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, I mean, we've heard from filmmakers, we've heard from producers, actresses, the likes, but we haven't heard your story and how the closure of cinemas impacted you. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's been devastating, to say the least, because there's an entire industry bearing the full vigor of the pandemic, and we've been shut down for over a year now. Staff has been laid down, the cinema has been closed, so it's been very hectic for the cinema and for the entire industry.
Now let's talk about annually. Plus minus, how much would you make before the COVID-19 pandemic? How much were you making?
Okay, so annually we are hovering in the margins of $2 million a year. Mm-hmm. That's how much Accra Mall alone makes in a year. So that's how much we've lost for the past 1 year.
All right, so you talk about loss. Now, what is the way forward, the recovery plan? If President Akufo-Addo says we're opening the cinemas tomorrow, what is the way forward?
We were actually ready yesterday. Okay. As a matter of fact, we've put measures in place. All COVID-19 protocols are in place.
As a producer, I feel very outraged because I keep saying several times that this is the job I do. I mean, I went to school for 4 years to learn how to make film, so I became a filmmaker. That is my profession. I'm not a banker. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an engineer. That is what I do. And so if my business has been shut for a year and over, that is frustrating. And a lot of them, when you talk, people think it's just about you, but it's about the whole people in the fraternity, from the cinema operators to the filmmakers. Have you been to Silverbird lately? I'm sure if you have, you will see how rotten, like I can say, like it's so dusty, it's things are spoiling. And that is supposed to be someone's business. So you ask yourself, if the ministry of say finance or anything is closed down today and the workers are home, would those people that work over there be happy and think that we should just move along with it? No. That is someone's business. That is someone's investment. Dusty.
Where there was once life, excitement, and an audience, now there is dust and emptiness. I'm standing in the middle of the Silverbird front of house. The popcorn stands are empty, the ticketing desk is empty, and the cinemas are empty. We've heard from the cinema operators, we've also heard from the filmmakers. And now, we wait to hear from you, Mr. President.
Apito Sebidi with that report there. Let's have a quick conversation on the back of this, shall we? Joining me on phone is movie producer Kofi Asamoah and entertainment pundit on George Kwe, host of Showbiz A to Z. Gentlemen, you're welcome and thank you for your time. Kofi, I want to start with you. You are a movie producer. So let's talk about the closure of the cinemas. How has it impacted you personally? What's your personal story?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it has really taken the industry a bit backward. And personally, as a producer, I've also lost a lot of money. When ideally last year, I would have made a film, and this year, my film would have been released already. And so the closure really did affect our business. And not just me, but the many other people who also make a living out of the films we make. It's quite a very long chain of influence. And so for all those associated with every film we make,
what do you make of those who make the arguments that we're saving lives and saving lives or lives should be prioritized irrespective of how much people are losing?
In the cinema, the only place people can get COVID and die. Does it have to take the cinemas, closure of the cinemas, to save lives? We didn't talk about saving lives when churches were allowed to operate. We didn't talk about saving lives when over 300 parliamentarians sit down in a tight, clear condition room. We didn't talk about saving lives when banks are working. Why do we talk about saving lives when it has to do with the cinema? I think that it's just, I have said many times that it looks like there was something other than COVID, a continuous closure of the cinema. But if we talk about saving lives, there are a lot of activities that go on in this country that make you question if indeed to save lives. There are churches that have auditorium capacity bigger than the National Theatre, bigger than a lot of the cinemas in this country. These churches are operating. People clap, dance, move about. Trumpeters, how will the trumpeters play the trumpet with a loose mask on?
So I take it, for you, it doesn't make sense that the cinemas are still shut.
At all. It never makes sense, and that's why for a long time,
okay,
we're pushing for its opening.
Let me bring George in. The other part of the conversation that, Kofi, I want you to bear in mind that we'll have is why the calls on governments to open up the cinemas have not worked so far. But let me bring George in. George, you yourself have had some gigs suspended over the closure, haven't you?
Yes. It's been unfortunate, and on Showbiz A to Z, we've had a number of conversations around it, and we also added our voice to the many that have called for the reopening of the cinemas. Again, naturally, you would understand the government, and I like the question you asked, that what does one make of the argument that hovers around saving lives? Because indeed, it is something that's very important. We cannot joke with the COVID-19 thing. It is real. It is here. As we speak, South Africa is in a third wave, and people are still dying. They are still dealing with it. I know they've considered so many other methods, even considering shutting down their borders again and all. So it is a very, very legit question to ask, But the thing is, when you look at other things that are happening around the country, you ask yourself, really, what is the big deal about reopening cinema and asking them to follow protocol? The other time I made an argument on Showbiz A to Z that, look, when this thing started, I remember people in the space argued that, look, churches would be a lot more responsible than entertainment people, because when you give entertainment people the access, or these people in the showbiz space, eventing, cinemas and all that, if you give them the access, because those places admit alcohol and all those things, when they drink and they are happy and they are gay and all that, they would just forget about the restrictions. But, well, we also saw what happened at the Fantasy Dome, didn't we, with Christ Embassy and all that. And that is just one of the many. We don't have the luxury of going around churches every Sunday to see what's going on in there. But let's even put the churches argument aside. Let us look at the construct of Parliament itself. How different is Parliament from Silverbird? An enclosed space, people in there talking, wearing their mask, socially distanced, and doing their business. Tell me how different that is from the setup of a cinema.
Well, John, there are reports that we're hearing that government intends to open up again. And I was going to look at the point where I saw, Showbiz A to Z, for example, has had a lengthy conversation about this. There have been actually calls by the movie makers, for government to open it up, and all didn't, yield fruits. I was wondering why you think that is. But we're hearing that there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Have you heard?
Yes, we've heard too, which is very, very welcome news. It is about time. We have, they've put some modalities in place, and cinemas that intend to operate would have to apply for some sort of a permit or a license or something from the Ghana Tourism Development Authority or one of those or something. It is all, it's all well and good.
Okay.
The most important thing is that the cinemas, though their contribution may be, sort of arguably negligible, it might be small, it is still revenue of a sort. It still puts food on the tables of some Ghanaians. They still pay taxes to the government. Look, wherever they are located, Silverbird is located in the malls. I'm sure they are still paying their rent. How are they surviving? The staff that work there are fellow Ghanaians like you and I. How are they feeding their families? How are they surviving? There are many, many movie makers in this country who have films sitting on shelves. And a lot of the time, what people do not realize is that films, like music, are also time-bound. You make a film sometimes based on something that is happening at the moment. You understand? Someone might have made a movie about the just-ended election. It's been over a year already that the person could not screen those films. Now, the impact a movie like that, had it been premiered, say, a year ago, would have made, it's not going to be the same.
Right.
You understand? And there's a time value on some of these things.
Okay.
So I am particularly excited that finally the cinemas are going to be allowed to open and operate one more time. I'm very, very excited about that. And it's key, I pray, that they just follow the protocols and don't violate it. Because time and again, we in the creative space have been looked upon as people who really flout regulations. And I pray and hope that we would use this to set a very, very good example. Because I say again, a cinema setup is no different from an office congress or a conference or a meeting or even the constructs of Parliament itself. Okay.
I'll come back and take your final word, George. But let me bring Kofi in. Kofi, over the period that people have called for the opening, I get the feeling that perhaps a compelling argument was not made, or an argument compelling enough was not made. The alternatives were not made clear to government of how we can do this without, we can watch our movies in the cinemas without necessarily being a super spreader. Now that we're hearing the government wants to open up, what do you think that people in the industry like yourself should be doing to give government that, assurance that, like George is saying, there won't be recklessness?
I think that the reopening has come as a result of a lot of pressure from filmmakers like myself, and others for a long time. And so, before now, we had always made very compelling cases, unlike you have said.
Okay.
We've always made very compelling cases why the cinemas could be opened. I mean, it is not different from a lot of facilities that are already operational and functional. And so I think that we had made our case, and the leadership of the filmmakers and film groups have made very different cases as well within the cinemas. And so I believe that all of this, all of those contribute to the reason for the opening. That's what I think.
Okay.
And the opening for me is in order, and the whole guidelines that comes with it. It feels to me like
right. Sorry, looks like I've lost Kofi there. George, are you still there? Your final words.
Cinemas are being allowed to operate one more time, but for me, I would say kudos to government for that. Better late than never. And what's key is that the practitioners strictly follow the COVID-19 safety protocols, because look, if we violate it and the patrons start getting sick, they are not going to be able to patronize, and then all the effort would go to nothing.
Right. That's
so
right.
I pray that we follow the restrictions, we follow them religiously, so that at least we can set an example and let government know that we are not lawless people. And if we're given certain privileges, we will not abuse them. That's key for us.
George, thank you very much for joining in. Kofi Asamoah is a movie producer, George Quay, an entertainment pundit, and our own colleague here.